No, we're not confused. You're confused. At least that's my argument today. But I do fundamentally disagree with one of the non-dual perspectives out there, which is commonly held. There's always this opposite view of how to take non-duality, and I think it's fundamentally flawed and even a little bit dangerous. So I really want to clear that up today. There is this sentiment or idea when it comes to non-duality that one is already enlightened, that enlightenment is already upon us. And so the idea of seeking or pursuing enlightenment, one need not do anything to improve their circumstances, to experience less suffering, because they're already enlightened. The way things are is already enlightened. So many challenges are created in this meditation world because we just don't say enough words or clearly explain things. You know, what we're seeking is the nature of mind. It's the nature of being us. So yes, there is an enlightened quality already with us, but it's absolutely useless if unrecognized. We have the nature of mind or an awakened state within us, but it is obscured, it's obstructed in some way, we're not accessing it. The reason why this is an important discernment to make is that unless we recognize, which we can, a very fundamental shift in the way that it's like to be us, we're still open to all the experiential suffering in our lives. To say that one is already enlightened and change nothing about their life is literally just to spend a couple moments in their day saying, I'm already enlightened, and then go about experiencing the same suffering they've always experienced, and to fundamentally not actually help any other being with their suffering out there, because we can just see that they're suffering and under this concept go up to them and say, hey, why are you suffering? You're already enlightened. It doesn't change anything. All you've developed is a spiritual ego. We have this qualitative dimension of consciousness. It feels different ways to be us. As long as suffering is a very real reality that we can experience, just chucking in some more words saying, no, we don't have to suffer, that doesn't necessarily change anything, apart from the shift in non-duality, which is to say, there is something that we can fundamentally recognize which changes the qualities of being us, in which there is no more arising experiences of suffering, and it is something very deliberate and different to just a new idea. There is some benefit, and it's why the sentiment exists, to the idea that we're already enlightened, but it's only an aspect of us that is already enlightened that still needs to be brought forth to fully flourish. So why we may say that you're already awakened or you don't need to seek is because a lot of the times we think about seeking, it means to just add more conceptual action. The act of adding more conceptual action into our lives, trying to go on meditation retreats and meet gurus and go on the traditional gradual approach towards enlightenment. The reason why that might be flawed is that it could just be layering in more thoughts into our head. Kind of like just adding on a thought, oh, I'm already enlightened. Because what we're trying to gain is a shift or a recognition, the non-duality doesn't get further or closer to us depending on how we think about it. In fact, all we ever think about it is just more thoughts, and it's the experiential nature underneath the thoughts. It's reality as it is moment by moment. Reality always is as it is moment by moment, regardless on if we go on these long seeking trips. So the fundamental shift between non-dualistic being and dualistic being can become as available to us regardless of the circumstances. It can take some time. We might need to go on some journeys to figure out how to make that shift, but once we know how to make that, the circumstances don't really shift how accessible it is, because we're always being us. It's the nature of being us. So in that regards, you don't really need to seek. We end up realizing that once we understand how to make the shift, seeking very much seems to be an illusion. There is no one seeking, there's just the nature of whatever is unfolding moment by moment. Once we have this insight, we can understand how seeking was always somewhat paradoxical. Non-duality is always available to us, but it can take some time recognizing how to make that shift, recognizing the nature of mind. Up until that point, we can learn whatever ideas we want, and hopefully they help us know that shift. But if it's not that shift, it's still ultimately in the layer of conceptual understanding, and conceptuality is what divides us from being as the nature of mind. Here's a quote by Tsoknyi Rinpoche from his book Open Heart, Open Mind. There's an old story about a man who spent many years in a cave meditating on emptiness. Mice were constantly crawling around his cave, and one day a particularly large one leapt onto the rock that served as his table. Ha!
he thought. The mouse is emptiness. He grabbed his shoe and killed the mouse, thinking, the mouse is emptiness, my shoe is emptiness, and killing the mouse is emptiness. But all he'd really done was solidify the idea of emptiness into a concept that nothing exists, so he could do whatever he wanted and feel whatever he felt without experiencing any consequences.
That's the consequence of thinking like this. The awakened mind, non-dual consciousness, whatever we're calling it, is the nature of being us. So in that respect, it's always available. The journey might not be so far as we suspect, but until we learn how to make that shift in our experience, there is a very meaningful difference, which is the difference of the worst suffering you've experienced and more than the greatest bliss you can imagine. May we be intelligent in our pursuit. Maybe not develop spiritual egos, and maybe not become confused. We're so used to being in this world and relating to it dualistically and conceptually that the idea of having a self which moves towards no self and how that transition takes over, that is something that's a bit confusing to get your head around. But one can, and we'll make another video on that another day. Thanks so much in our experience of being, and that's why it's a very important compassion. Once we have this in psych, I have started the non-duality war. In summation,